right, okay, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 52 of Offset, the show where we bring on artists and we talk about their work, their process, their inspiration, and a bunch of other stuff that you have for them in the chat, because it's a live stream originally, and then, you can watch the replay. But we'd like to take your questions and pass them off to who we have on the show. Today, we're joined by Christina Lee, who is a fantastic editorial illustrator and Brooklyn-based as well. So we are both streaming to each other in Brooklyn to you, which is exciting. And we got a bunch of people in the chat, both on YouTube and Behance. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you to CJ for being our moderator. And howdy hello to Lisa, Oliver, Bruce, Robert, Jack in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. If you have any questions at all, please let me know, and I will pass them over to Christina. We do have a segment where we get to have our guests introduce themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and first bring in Christina, and then we'll hop right into that in just a few seconds. Hey, Christina, how's it going?
Hey, good. I'm not too far away from you in Brooklyn, so.
Yeah, Happy New Year. And I hope Brooklyn is treating you well in 2024. You had a good New Year?
Yeah, like we were talking, I went to the Korean spa, Sojo over in New Jersey. So it was a very great way, like relaxing way to start the new year.
Yeah, rejuvenated and ready for it to just tear you down so you can go again.
Absolutely.
So the very first segment that we have is elevator pitch. And so let's cue it up and then I can talk you through it. All right. So do you use Pomodoro timers at all or anything?
No.
All right. So I tried to. It's not great. We're using this for this segment, but this hypothetically is so that I can use that method. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to set this to 1 minute, and then we're going to give you a minute as you ride the elevator up to just kind of give a little artist statement about yourself for elevator pitch. So, are you ready?
I'm all set.
All right. Ready, set, go.
So I'm a Korean American illustrator, and I would like to describe myself as simultaneously obsessed and disgusted with American culture. I grew up in an immigrant household, so I gravitate towards illustration as a way to relate to people. So because of that, I like to portray quotidian subjects through a kitschy lens. So I use a brush pen to produce expressive line work and gravitate to the fluorescent inks of the risograph printer. Hand in hand with the accessibility of illustration, to me, the democratization of art and building relations are very important. So I've also founded a community screen printing studio, and I've also founded a small press. So I generally, I like to describe my work as something that you can laugh at, cry at, and cringe at. And I generally like to show a reflection, a funhouse reflection of contemporary life through my illustrations.
Wow. All right. With 2 seconds to spare, she's a professional. Oh my God. And also so well articulated. That was incredible. I would be like, yeah, I draw art and I don't know, I live stream. But that was so well thought out. And so, yeah, fantastic way to summarize yourself. I do want to hop straight into the next segment we have, just so people have kind of some context, because you spoke to it very nicely, but it's also always nice to have seeing is believing. And so let's look at your work. Let's look at your work. So I went ahead and I pulled up your Instagram, which is XX Lee, which obviously is like double Christina Lee. And you have some wonderful colors. You have a really great showcase of both editorial and some of the stuff that you kind of just do for fun. But I guess I will let you go ahead and kind of take the reins. Is there anyone that you want me to pull up and kind of show off?
Sure. Yeah, let's go to the top left. That piece for New York Times. So yeah. This is something that I did about a few months ago about fake reviews and the regulation of fake reviews for the New York Times business section.
Hmm.
I had a lot of fun working on this piece because actually the kernel of this idea came from a class assignment, and then it just sort of, it sort of just revealed itself as I was thumbnailing sketches for this editorial assignment. I'm not going to lie, it was pretty tough. It's a tough subject. How do
Yeah.
you illustrate the regulation of fake reviews on the internet in a fun way? But ultimately, I had a lot of fun with incorporating these bright colors. Yeah, so that's like the kernel right there. This came from like a school assignment from a different, like a mock editorial assignment. And then like I think the next that kind of shows I produced like 5 different sketches. The final was kind of like a combination of the first sketch and the fourth sketch right there. But
Right.
I tried to my best to when I work with assignments like this that are like more like these business topics, I try my best to be as creative, fun, and humorous as possible.
Especially with dealing with such a hard topics too. Like it's a juggle to make sure that it doesn't feel like it's patronizing it, but is also still, not just doom and gloom. And I love your colors because I think that speaks to it a lot. And then also just the forms that you have, with like the crazy like wonky thumb to finger. That's really is the um key point that just drives you straight to the center of kind of like then that burst out. You mentioned that this was from a school assignment, so you're still in school.
Yes, so I am getting my Master's of Fine Art at the Fashion Institute of Technology right now.
Yeah, and you like it?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm thankfully in my final semester. It's a 3 year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And yeah, no, it's really incredible that also while you're also juggling that, you're also like having things that are coming up in like the New York Times. I know you're no stranger to having your work in editorial publications. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience is like and the experience of working with editors and um, something that goes along with the work? You kind of spoke on it a little bit a minute ago, but just a little bit more.
Yeah, so I've had like a long history with editorial. So I actually started receiving editorial assignments pretty early before I started going to school for illustration. So 2016, I was doing a lot of work for Teen Vogue and Rookie magazine, but my style has changed a lot since then. I sort of feel like back then I was very much typecast as like a female illustrator just because of the nature of my editorial clients. And now, like, I've sort of been able to, like I've said in my elevator pitch, bring in some more of that weirdo, bizarre aesthetic that I've always been extremely drawn to. So now I've been getting, I'm back doing editorial, and it's sort of like I was doing editorial in 2016 to 2019, and then I started getting more advertising clients sort of in between then and now. And now I'm sort of getting more editorial work again because I've defined my illustrative voice a little bit better, I think. So, and
No, it's a cool
yeah,
journey.
yeah, like, 2016 to 2023, that's a long amount of time. Like your work is going to change, in
Yeah.
those years. So,
Absolutely, and but also just the amount, and we'll touch on that in just a little bit too, of having some of your older work next to your newer work, and the idea of like how much a year, let alone what is that, 8 years now, between just kind of different aesthetic choices and skill level and so much. So it's really cool. We'll take a little look into that journey in just a little bit. Over on YouTube, Ursula, hello, welcome to the chat, is saying obsessed with the Matisse dancers as hot dogs. Which, yeah, was that just for fun or was that for something in particular?
it was just for fun. I feel like the Matisse dancing thing has been like a meme, or just has been just like a latent image in my
Hmm.
brain for some reason. And so I was just like, I really like drawing hot dogs. I always have. I don't really know why. And so I was just like, it'd be kind of funny if the dancers were hot dogs, like, yeah.
Robert is criticizing that there's only ketchup on. He says that he puts ketchup and mustard on his hot dogs.
Well, like,
the critics have spoken.
I think that Chicagan might have a huge issue with me. And yeah, I mean, I only put ketchup on my hot dogs because I always draw the bun in yellow. So
Yeah, you don't want the competing. No, I love him. He's just teasing you. But no, I like this is also such like an art school I don't know, meme in and of itself, I feel like. And to see anything that kind of has a take on that is so wonderful. And yeah, to your point, you were saying that you like to bring the absurdity and the weirdo into it. And I mean, like, look at his little furrowed brow, too. He's really into his dance. It's so cute. And then, yeah, no, also, yeah, I also like that you are able to just put out something that feels very, like, I don't know, just genuine and like not everything is a full-on editorial piece that you have, but some of it just gives work and context to the idea of just being an illustrator. And I loved how in your artist speech you were saying you're both like obsessed and criticizing of American culture. And it's cool to be able to like view your work through that lens. And yeah, it's just so strange because then also you have these bright, vibrant colors, which a lot of people always associate with positive thinking, but sometimes it's with really hard topics. So
yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Ryan.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of publication that you have had as like a dream client or like somebody that you've really kind of idolized? This is for Refinery 29. I know we were talking a little bit about New York Times as well. Is there anyone that you want to work for or anyone that you have worked for that you're really excited about?
I mean, we can talk about the Bloomberg Business Week piece that I just did.
Oh, yeah. Let me pull that up.
Yeah. And honestly, I've wanted to work with them for such a long time. So it was very exciting for me to get this commission from them.
And how did that come into place? Did they just find you on Instagram?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm familiar with the art director who commissioned me. She's actually a very talented designer. I'm a big fan of her work. She just did the rebrand of with another talented art director and designer who I really admire, Lana Schlenker, for the Mattress Factory, which is a lovely museum in Pittsburgh. But she reached out to me about a few weeks ago, asking me if I was interested in illustrating this piece. And I said yes. And she was, her name is Jordy, and she was an absolute dream to work with as well. So I'm really excited. I mean, it's also coming out in print. And so I'm really excited to, when it comes out in print, to show you the print spread, because the print spread is amazing.
Yeah. Now you're predominantly mostly working in digital, right? So the idea of working in print is something that's relatively new, right?
No, I've actually worked in print for a long time. So I would say my undergraduate focus. So I actually studied fine art at the undergraduate level at Carnegie Mellon University. You kind of have to pick a focus. And I've always wanted to be an illustrator. So I was like, okay, if I focus on printmaking and animation and do a minor in communication design, that will be sort of like a mock illustration major. So I've been doing a lot of printmaking for a long time. And I often like to combine traditional and digital. So the way I like to use Photoshop is I like to take my ink work and edit it in Photoshop. But this piece in particular is completely digital.
Okay. From start to finish, or do you normally kind of like sketch something out and then even if you're not scanning the ink in, are you like scanning like sketches or anything, or was this fully digital?
This was fully digital. What I also loved about working with Jordy is that she was very much like, she pulled up previous examples of my work and was like, I like these examples, and I understanding the way the process behind those pieces that she pulled, those were completely digital. So I went just digital all the way for this one.
Yeah.
Um,
Few comments in the chat. Reverb Mike says he loves the world table. Bruce is saying that printed work always feels awesome and congratulations. And then Alexander is saying, Happy New Year. I truly appreciate your work, Christina. How did you get access to high profile clientele? Do you work remotely? And what is a day in the life look for you? So those are 3 back-to-back questions. I guess let's start off with you spoke a little bit about getting access to high profile clientele. But is there any further information that you could kind of add to that?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was first starting out, so I would say like 2016, and I don't know if this is something that you were able to dig, Ryan, but I created like a Kim Kardashian coloring book.
Okay,
When
I'll dig. As you talk, I will dig for your Kim Kardashian coloring book.
coloring books were like starting to be like really trendy. I created that, and then I got some press regarding that. And then through a friend of a friend, I got Teen Vogue as a client there too. So it just kind of created this snowball effect where like I got press coverage for this like printed zine coloring book thing I did. And then I also, had Teen Vogue also listed me as a byline, but I was only really able to get them as a client because I knew someone who I had a friend who had another friend that needed an illustrator at the last minute. So I think honestly, it's networking, which is like the annoying answer. Like, I have a lot of friends that are also not creative. So in a way, I have become their illustrator friend, or I have like a lot of designer friends that don't necessarily illustrate, but need illustrators from time to time, or they have friends of friends who need illustrators. So, become that illustrator friend. Just, make your social network super wide. Like I love my illustrator friends as well. But if you're
They're not
able,
as cool. They're not as
sorry,
resourceful. But they're not as cool. They're not as resourceful.
resource. Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
no, I mean, also illustrator friends are important as well.
Is this it, by the way? Did I find the right one?
Yes, this is from like 2016, and like ID magazine like created a little feature, and then the Theater magazine also wrote something about it as well. I don't really think like, yeah, this is like the pop culture element, I guess. And I don't really make work like this anymore, but I would say the spirit of this is possibly still very present in my
Yeah, the
practice.
personality and the kind of tongue-in-cheekness to it is something that I still think pulls through, even if the content has changed. One other thing that I do want to say is that you're also a fantastic comic creator, and that is a big part of your work as well. I know you sent over a few. I'm going to pull them up real quick. But do you want to talk a little bit about your relationship with comics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up obsessed with comics. I would say I was reading, and you can also see a little bit my bookshelf right here. You can see I have a bunch of stuff on my bookshelf. I kind of grew up on like a healthy diet of both like American indie comics and also manga. I would go to my local library, and I would stumble upon stuff like I would read like Ranma, One Half, whatever, and then like also The Sandman. Like I read all of The Sandman.
Oh, of course, The Sandman, right? I mean, that's classic.
Yeah, like I just had a very voracious reading appetite growing up. So, but I never really thought that I could create comics. It's just too much drawing, you know. But I'm starting to make more of them now. The way I like to describe women in comics is like there is this statistic about women running for office and how women have to be asked 3 times to actually run for office. I would like to say it's the same for women in comics because it's
Okay.
male. I mean, like a lot of industries are very male, like creative industries, and just a lot of professional industries in general
Right.
are still very male dominated. But comics are also still very male dominated. But I would say my first comic was when I was in high school, this is so pretentious, my senior year, we read Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, and I just decided to make a comic based off of it my senior year.
Oh, that's so cool though. I mean, it's cool to also like have like a reaction to a like piece of literature and then be like, I need to visualize this in a way that can then be shown to others.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I reached my intellectual peak in high school. That was when I was reading like James Joyce and
Mhm.
Dostoevsky because it was required for me for school. I really enjoyed it too. But I
Yeah.
think I tried to read another Dostoevsky. I tried to read The Brothers Karamazov recently because I just haven't read it, and I love Crime and Punishment, but it's a slog. It's a slog to do that without like the construct of school supporting you. So
No, I mean, also you're also literally juggling other schoolwork and like work on the top of it. So, you know, I feel like there's a lot there. I'm something of inspiration that I'm kind of also feeling is I'm sure you've heard of Persepolis, right?
yes, I love
Um,
Persepolis.
and just your use of like large black colors, like just married to also large white colors or tones, I guess I should say, is something that I feel like it reminds me of Persepolis, not in a way that it feels like it is ripping from it, but in a way that just like I can feel kind of a parallel there, which is cool to see.
Thanks. Yeah.
um
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Marjan Satrapi, so it you know makes me feel good for you to say that. So thank you.
okay, well, I'm glad to hear. And then this one real quick is just a chapter from a zine from about like half a year ago, Body Talk, talking about eczema. And was this kind of just a way for you to uh, do you deal with eczema? Is this a personal thing, or is this like something that you were channeling someone else?
Yeah, this so Body Talk is like a autobiographical comic zine that basically talks about like each part of my body. This one talks specifically about skin, and eczema is something that I've struggled with my entire life.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's awful.
But I've also kind of like this it at the end of this short chapter, I sort of talk more about having thick skin and how it's I developed thick skin as a result of like metaphorically as a result of struggling with eczema.
Yeah.
But then there's also some not some not so great things about having thick skin. Like I think when you are able to persevere and kind of stick, kind of like tolerate anything, then it becomes very hard for you to understand what makes you happy. So that's the end of that chapter is what I discuss. So
Cool. And now I know you said a little bit ago, you said that you were worried about ever being able to make a comic because it was too much drawing. How are you kind of navigating that? Because obviously that's a lot of drawing that you've got going on. Do you just split it up in time, or is it something that you have just kind of like built up an endurance for?
So right now I am in the process of trying to create like a 50-page comic for as my final project for school.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
my first time embarking on such a project, and
Mhm.
all I do is draw, and my partner can be a testament to that as well. But 2 years of illustration school, I feel like I can just draw with my eyes closed at this point. And I'm also, on top of, freelancing and being in school, I'm also teaching. So,
Wow. Add it to the list. Just pile it on, baby.
so I basically just live at school. I'm either teaching or I'm in class, or I'm drawing if I'm back home. So
Well, in the chat, by the way, just to catch up on a few things, Griffin is saying that the Kim Kardashian coloring book is a good representation of obsession discussed with American culture, which is a good call out. Lisa would like to know if you've ever thought of having an agent or if you already have one.
so let's talk about agents.
Let's talk about agents.
My agents. There's two kinds of agents. So there's like a commercial agent that gets you just, commercial illustration work. And then there's like a literary agent that basically tries to get, like if you create graphic novels or if you want to create picture books, that's the literary agent helps you find publishers to buy your work and help you through the pitch process. I have not ever had either. Certainly something that I would be interested in. But I just kind of do it all. So most recently, I would say my most recent like fuller time role was as a designer at Refinery 29. And so when I was doing that, I was working with a lot of art directors and, editors and creating a lot of editorial illustration work in-house.
Right.
And a photo collage as well. And one of the things I love the most about that is being able to work with the editors. Like I actually really like working with editors and art directors. So I think if I had an agent and if they like replace that relationship for me, I feel kind of bummed out.
Yeah. Like you
Like
want the hands-on approach to it so that you could have the connection with the people who are creating the work that is going aside your stuff.
I do. And I think like if you're into like comics or like animation, there's a little bit of a control freak element to you. And I would like to have all control over like negotiations and like, building relationships with editors and art directors and stuff. There's a part of me that just like wants that as well. But if my business scales up, like if the client roster gets really hairy at a certain point, I think I would try to find an agent. But for now, I'm doing all of it myself. So
one woman show. I love it. And then one real last question before we hop onto our next segment from Ryan Smith over on YouTube says, love your illustration and comics work. Is there a long form comic project you'd want to create and put out into the world? Also, Glander Co. Is in the chat saying, hi, Christina, big fan in all caps. So just to note.
Oh, that's Julian. But to Ryan, so that's to Ryan Smith. I don't know about long form.
I mean, 50 is pretty long. I feel like that's already like kind of there,
It's like a short story anthology, so I'm cheating a little bit.
Okay.
They're like, like I have one big 25-page comic and then like some other smaller stories that are not related.
Okay.
I feel like I would like to do long form, but I think the issue with long form for me right now is the fact of the matter is I haven't been reading a lot of fiction, like long form fiction recently.
Okay.
I don't know if I've lost the attention span for it or
like a lot of time. You got a lot going on.
Well, I think, like for me, long form is really easy to read if it's nonfiction. Like I love autobiography. I love biography. So like I'm currently reading Power Broker by Robert Caro. And like for me, it's like so good. It's biographical. And then, it's about the history of New York City. So it's very easy for me to read. But like I said, I tried to read Brothers Karamazov and I just like can't crack it. So
well, be kind to yourself, like, you also deserve a break. Everything doesn't have to be fully, I don't know, constructive and add like you're allowed to have time to just do things you enjoy,
I know, but I also I do enjoy it's sort of like I have been gravitating more towards, I guess, like short form fiction instead of longer form. But I think if I fall back in love with long form fiction, I would definitely entertain. Like long form comics is like totally easy for me to consume. And like, I mean, comics are a quick read no matter what. But I feel like sometimes I feel more inspired by like the books I read in my comics practice instead of the graphic novels. Like I am inspired by the graphic novels I read, no doubt. But my intake of comics is also writing first. And so like I think like I'm more inspired by the books I read. Like, and if I, like my comics process, I start with writing as well. So
well said. Well, speaking of short form content, let's hop into one of our short form questions, which is our 20 questions.
20 quick questions.
All right, so these are just 20 quick rapid fire questions, lightning round kind of, to get to know you a little bit better. First one would be, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Right-handed. What's the best color?
Pink.
What's the worst color?
Oh God, I kind of black. Even though I wear a lot of black, it's just kind of boring. But
well, it's interesting because you work in black and white a lot, so that's surprising to hear.
Yeah.
What's the best shape?
Star.
What's the hardest thing to draw?
Honestly, nature, like trees, bushes. Like I have a really hard time with
anything lush, kind of.
Yeah. Not plants, but bushes. I don't know, like tree. I don't. It's hard to explain.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. What's the easiest thing to draw then?
I would say like a close-up of someone's face, especially if they're sweating or in some sort of anguish.
Right. What's the hardest thing to animate? I know you add a little bit of motion to some of your stuff.
Fluids. So yes, like I tried to animate something when I was in college. It's like an autobiographical short, animated short, where I portray this instance where I slipped in someone else's throw up at SeaWorld.
Oh my God. How old were you?
I was like maybe like 5 or 6.
And that's trauma. That's trauma right there.
Yeah. And I had the hardest time trying to animate this person throwing up. So like I enlisted the help of my good friend Nico Zavaios, who's a very talented illustrator, and was able to animate someone throwing up. So thank you, Nico.
Sorry for my ambulance out front. I'm going to mute myself for a second. Take the next 10 seconds. Is that picking up on the microphone?
It is a little bit, yeah.
All right, I'm trying to mute myself, but they're just literally just move. Just move. Why? Go save the person. I don't.
Sounds like they're going to. Yeah, it sounds like they're moving. I don't hear it anymore.
It's because I keep muting myself. Okay. All right, we'll just have to find a way to power through this. What is the most productive hour of the day?
For me, it's the morning. I love I had a very good habit of waking up at 6 a.m. this past semester.
6 a.m. Wow.
Because I have a class and I have to get to camp. I teach at 8 a.m. on Wednesdays. So I have to wake up at 6 a.m. to be out of the house by 7 a.m. to make sure to get on campus by 8 a.m.
Oh, man, yeah, I was always a very night class guy, which everyone always thought was crazy, but I could never do the morning ones. But yeah, now 8 a.m. All right, 6 a.m. What is the best medium?
Best medium, honestly, it's a tie right now because I'm deep in the weeds with this long project. I would say I'm really into risograph printing right now and also inking. But if you asked me this maybe even a year or two ago, I would say screen printing instead of risograph printing. But
spoken like a true small press though. Like
true,
Rizo is all their age. I love Rizo and I want to learn how to do it, but I don't know where I would even access one,
Well, let's talk about it sometime, Ryan, because I would love to help out with that.
Oh my God, that would be the best thing ever. To follow up that, what's the worst medium?
Oh God, I would say are we speaking traditionally 2D here, or can we
be anything? I mean, even if you don't I don't know, clay, you could say clay if you wanted to,
I mean, like for me, it's sort of like a tie between like I wish I could love clay, but again, I have really bad eczema. Like I have really bad eczema on my hands, so it just like prevents
Probably not
me from
great.
working with clay. Like if I didn't have eczema on my hands, I totally would love it. And then another one would be like video performance art. Like I can't do it. Like
No, I get that. It's a lot.
I dabbled with it like in college because I had to, but
Yeah, because it's
no.
college. There's plenty of
Never.
things in college that I'm like, okay, and that will always just live in my college phase, and that's all it will be. What's a piece of client feedback you hear too much?
Whew. I would say I've had the privilege of working with really great clients that don't give me like stale feedback. But I've encountered a lot of stale feedback, I feel like, in my full-time creative roles, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like the piece of feedback that always gets me is when it's related to motion work.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like everyone has a very different way of describing motion.
Right.
So sometimes I'll get feedback where it's like, can you like make it like, I don't know, like go like this a little bit more? And I'm just like, what does that mean? You know?
You're like,
Or
it's a bouncing ball. It doesn't have hands. I don't know what to tell you.
yeah. So I think honestly, like it's really like the motion projects where I get really tough feedback and I just don't know how to interpret it.
We were talking to Dante yesterday, and he said that he hates hearing make it more dynamic. He's like, what is that even? What is that? He's like, for some people that's faster. Sometimes it's like different like levels of motion. He's like, I hate that word. How many unread emails do you have in your inbox?
Oh God. So I have 2 email addresses. Let's just go. My personal one, 203.
You know what? I've heard of worse, honestly.
Okay, good.
What's the first thing you draw when drawing a character?
I always draw the eyes. I feel like that's pretty common.
Yeah, me too. What's the best background noise for work?
It's a tie between like a podcast or music, depending on my mood. Right now I feel like I'm in this creative phase where I almost feel like I'm back in high school again for some reason, which is good because that means it's a creatively fruitful and fulfilling time I'm in right now, because I think that was the last time I felt that way, really.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to a lot of like 90s era Modest Mouse, Olivia Tremor Control. I'm looking at this playlist right now.
Your Spotify Wrapped.
Well, so my usual like playlist involves more like old school soul, disco, house stuff. I haven't really been listening to a lot of 90s indie recently until now. So right now my Spotify Discover Weekly is like so confused. It doesn't know what to do.
Right. Jen Lee's excited about Modest Mouse, by the way.
Oh, that's my sister. Hi, Jen.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you guys didn't argue on car rides, I guess. Then you could agree on some music. You're like, no, we still found things to argue about. Of course,
we argue for sure, but our dad has such specific taste in music. We just never really had control over what was playing in the car.
Oh, no.
But I would say, he raised us on a pretty good diet of Beatles, specifically.
Okay. There's much worse you could have gotten.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I have very fond memories of being in a car with my sister and having my father play Rubber Soul while driving to Yosemite for a camping trip. I would say that's a very quintessential.
Very like Americana, like experience right there.
Oh yeah.
Griffin is saying, "Yay, disco house." But next question, we have one long project or a bunch of tiny projects.
I would say both, because I feel like, so maybe it's actually just a bunch of small projects, but I feel like if I'm working on a big project, I need to like break it up with smaller things so I have other stuff to focus on. I really don't like repetitive tasks. Like even though like I love, like one of my favorite things about animation actually is tweeting. I don't really mind drawing the same thing over and over again, but I think there's something about repetitive, like maybe it's like more like repetitive design work that really gets me, where I'm maybe, and maybe it's just more like me commenting on design production work where you're just like churning out banners or JPEGs or something like that. That's what really gets me. So I think like smaller projects to break up the larger project is the best way to go.
No, great answer. All one layer or multiple layers?
Multiple layers. I am so bad with masks. I need to be better at using masks.
Like you use too many of them, or you like don't use them to their full?
I don't use them to their full. So what I like to do is I just like to duplicate layers and just like erase and like, you know, make like fundamental, like unavoidable, like, you know, just kind of destroy them by erasing on top of them. And then if I like don't like what I did, then I just like work on the layer that I duplicated and then I duplicate that. So, you know, like I like working iteratively, but I know that the file size could be a lot smaller and my work process would be a lot smoother if I just use masks. So
that's part of the journey though, you know. What color background do you draw on? I
just go with white.
Full on. Wait. FFFF.
Yeah.
And then favorite art class you ever took?
So this has to be sort of like a cross between, I don't think, because I'm currently in school right now, but I don't think I've had enough distance from my schoolwork currently, my graduate school education yet, to really figure out what I love the best. But I think at the undergraduate level, I had two classes that I really liked, and one was like a graphic novel class with John Pena, who does this wonderful daily autobiographical comic series. And he's kind of like one of the first people that unlocked comics making to me, that like showed me that it could be possible. I think
it's pretty pivotal.
Yeah, like I think, you know, I would be like taking classes, or I would have like one-on-ones with like older comic artists, like commercial comic artists, and like their processes would be just crazy. Like, you know, like real old school, like rulers, like, you know, rubbing the letters onto the paper and just making like really like high fidelity, high quality work. But I think that class with John Pena, he just was just like, all right, just make them. And no matter how I couldn't do the process that I've seen these commercial comic artists could do, but he kind of unlocked this part of me where I was like, okay, I can create comics in any way that I can, and it can still be a comic. So that, and also Paolo Pedercini, who he used to be big on Newgrounds. So a Flash.
Newgrounds throwback.
Yes, big Flash animator. And so he had a 2D animation class that also unlocked this narrative storytelling side of me as well in college. And the last project in that class is a animated short. And I just loved this class so much. I actually ended up taking it twice when I was an undergrad. So
no way, really? Were you able to get more credit for it at least?
Yeah, I got credit for it. I think the second time I took it, there were like 10 mini assignments, and Paolo is so awesome that he has the entire syllabus on the internet as well. Like, just
cool.
You can take his assignments and, you know,
go with it on your own pace.
Yeah. And so second time I did it, it was just more or less me focusing on creating an animated short. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we only got about like 9 minutes left, which is time is flying by. So I want to make sure we hop into a few more segments. But one real important one is next question.
Next question.
So this one comes from the previous guest, and you'll be giving a question for the next guest. But the previous guest asked, how do you find your unique style and voice in an industry that has so many great artists and creatives?
I find my voice by not comparing myself and trying to look at stuff that is not illustration. I often feel, and this is how I even felt when I was an undergraduate, is I always liked art or gravitated towards art that was not about art, that was about something else. So I think focus on being a well-rounded, holistic person. Develop interests outside of your industry and figure out ways of folding in those interests into your work. And that's how you're going to develop your own personal style.
Great answer. And then do you have a question for the next guest?
I would say, let me think.
And it could be anything. We've also had, what was the worst thing you've had in your fridge? So it can be art related, and it can also be completely unrelated.
I would ask the next person what their spirit animal is.
All right. That's perfect. All right. We want to move along nice and quick. We want to talk a little bit about some of your inspirations that you have. And you sent over a great artist. So let's do some art talk. All right. So for your artist, you mentioned somebody in particular that you immediately came to mind that you said was a big inspiration for you. And we had to do a little bit of some editing for it just so we could make sure that we could put it on stream. But do you want to talk a little bit about them?
Yes. So Julie Doucet is someone that I have been looking at a lot recently. She is a Canadian cartoonist, and her work is very raw, it's very honest, and her ink work is also, I would say, reflects her topic and storytelling voice very well. So this is obviously censored, but this is from a comic about herself having her period, and she's out of tampons, and this is the last last panel where she just goes on this rampage and she's just spewing out menstrual blood. And if you can see this detail right here too, it says cortex on the billboard, like on the left of her body. So to me it's very hilarious. It's honest, it's grotesque. I'm just very I love seeing depictions of women doing gross things. I don't know why, but I do. So,
and I also love the level of detail that's in like some of the spots. Like if you look into like where the bricks are, or even just like even like the strands of hair, or like to the eyes, it's grotesque, but there's a lot of attention and love to it. I know that you also wanted to talk a little bit about her new book, and I grabbed a few of the different selections from it. And once again, I'm seeing the cool details in the hair again.
Yeah, so this is a newer one. She took about I would say, I don't know, like off the top of my head, like 10 or a good amount of time off from comics. And she produced this new graphic novel, Time Zone J, and it's a little bit more avant-garde. It's indirect. So Julie Doucet's past work was more autobiographical. This is also autobiographical, but it's about her relationship, a long-distance relationship she had with someone who lives in France. And it's just more of like, it's more indirect, it's more surreal, and it feels like a very natural progression of her more direct storytelling when she was doing Dirty Plot to this more fantastical, surreal, still autobiographical, but just a little bit
the surreal side.
Yeah, just not as direct. It feels more artful.
Yeah, great. And then we have Yusuke Okada, which is a Tokyo-based artist, and you said you wanted to talk about these paintings, right?
Yeah, so I actually don't know much about Yusuke, but I just really like his paintings. So he's someone that I found on Instagram. But I'm a big fan of outsider art, and I feel like Yusuke really utilizes the language of outsider art in his paintings. The one on the left is, like I said, I'm simultaneously obsessed with and disgusted with American culture. And to me, this looks, do you know like Breezewood?
Reesewood?
Breezewood, yeah. Breezewood is like this weird, it's like in between, it's like sort of like on your way to Pittsburgh from New York or like DC from New York. There's like this weird area where no one lives there. There's actually a New York Times article about it, and it's just like like gas stations and fast food restaurants. And so this left painting really evokes Breezewood to me.
Yeah.
And then on the right, I just think it's just so funny. It's a girl, or like it's a guy with pointing a rifle into his mouth, and then like a girl like reaching for the rifle, and it's about performance and
American Idol, Sunday, 8 p.m.
Exactly. And like there's a Yankees logo and the Mets logo. It's about like American culture, it's about performance. And I think like in terms of the themes that I'm thinking about a lot, I'm thinking a lot about performance and fandom and its relationship to American culture. And I think this painting does that in a really wonderful way.
Yeah, I can see lots of parallels. And the last one is Aisha Franz, a German illustrator and comic artist. And this is right up your alley. And I really like this one.
Yeah, so this is also like a Bloomberg assignment as well. So Aisha, I love her style. I think her background is in animation. Yeah, that one is so good too. It's, a nun going through the Marilyn Monroe thing. But
She has a little hiney, which I feel like we would have been fine, but I just wanted to be safer than sorry.
Right, no, absolutely. But I love her use of color. Again, there's sort of like an outsider-y thing going on with Aisha's work as well. And lovely sense of humor. She has this graphic novel called Earthling that I really, really love that came out a few years ago. And she has another recent graphic novel. The title is escaping me right now, but it's all about like therapy and working in the office and whatnot, which just feels super, super like relevant right now.
It's something that we'll have to add to our reading list. And thank you so much for sharing those inspirations for us. We only have about like a minute or two left. I want to make sure we give time so that you can talk a little bit about your printing press that you have, your small press, and then your screen printing studio real quick. So in about 60 seconds or so, go at it.
Yeah, so All Right Press is a small press that I founded in 2020. And I was primarily working with underrepresented and emerging artists. And so you can find All Right Press zines and prints at Desert Island, Printed Matter, Dada Zine in Miami, and also Skylight Books in Los Angeles. So we have distribution at a lot of different bookstores and whatnot. It's sort of taken since I've been in grad school, it's sort of slowed down a little bit just because I haven't really had time. But I guess if you want to click on the drawings underneath the Body Talk pink zine right there. So that is a comic by Reese Adams Romangoli that will be released soon. It's basically like a comic about grief and also dealing with grief during the pandemic. And Reese has a really lovely style. He primarily, I went to undergraduate with him, and he studied traditional Chinese painting in China for a little bit as well. So he has a very lovely, interesting style, references a lot of pop culture and anime and video games as well. So I'm very excited for this one that will come out soon.
All right, fantastic. Well, we'll be sure to link to those in the show notes for everybody so that they can check out both All Right Press and also Pool Proof Studio. I'm sorry that we got locked for time, but we really appreciate having you on. Thank you for walking us through your work. And yeah, we can find you elsewhere online, just as Christina Lee, right? And we hope to talk to you real soon.
Thanks, Ryan. Nice chat.
Nice chat. Talk to you real soon. All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. I'm going to do this quick so we don't get cut off, but thank you very much for being here. We have one more episode of Offset coming up today. But if you're watching the replay, there's also plenty to watch on YouTube. Once again, my name is Ryan Selvy. Thank you for being here, and we'll be right back.